This is a meeting of the Board of Education for Tuesday, November the 28th. As people are aware, this meeting will be recorded. I'd like to first off acknowledge that we are meeting this evening on the traditional territories of the Qualicum and Sonawanis First Nations, and we thank them for allowing us to live, work, and play in this most beautiful part of our island. Trustees, for the adoption of the agenda, I have one item that I'll give a verbal report on the French Advisory Committee that I attended yesterday, and I'll do that under trustee items. Will be item B. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, amended? Thank you, trustee Kellogg. Seconded trustee Kurland. All those in favor? Carried. Elaine, well, you're either behind something or where'd you go? Oh, there you are.
Good.
Thank you. There you are. Sorry, I've just lost you.
I'm good. I'm okay.
Thank you. Approval of the consent agenda this evening. A mover and a seconder, please. So moved, trustee Kellogg, seconded. Trustee Young, are you keeping your hand up? Okay.
Does trustee Austin want to bring something?
Yes, I believe. Trustee Austin, you have a comment?
Can we please pull Tribune Bay Outdoor Ed Center Society report out?
Okay, and we'll put that under trustee items. Item C. A is a report of Academy, B will be the French Advisory, and C will be the Tribune Bay report. With that consent agenda item being removed, all those in favor? Carried. And this evening, Todd Provo and I believe David up at the top there. Sorry, I'm searching my screen. Mr. David Mitchell will be joining us this evening for a presentation on the health risks associated with avgas at the Qualicum Beach Airport. And I won't steal any of their thunder now, but there's a very interesting article that just came across my desk. And share screen, and there we go. I can turn it over to you, Todd and David.
Yeah. Okay. Now I think I had it sharing. Is that, do you guys see that?
Yep, we got it.
Yep, looks good.
You just may have to tell Peter to advance screen or something.
Okay. Thank you to your board for the school district, Qualicum School District, for having us this evening. My name is Todd Provo. I'm president of the Qualicum Woods Residents Association, and with me is David Mitchell, one of our fellow directors. This is just to give you an overview of what we're going to be covering today. Lead has long been known to be a health risk to human beings, and we have seen the elimination of its use in car fuel, paint, pipes, and other items which risk exposing us to lead. However, the main fuel used by smaller airplanes, single piston, at most airports, including at Qualicum Beach Airport, known as AV gas, still uses lead and additives which expose us to lead in the atmosphere. I've got a short video here, and hopefully it plays.
And for years, they've used fuel with lead in it, the only thing available until now, as the airport just started offering unleaded aviation gas.
It's obviously much better for the environment, and we're not burning lead for all the neighbors.
It's a significant step because small piston-powered aircraft are the biggest emitter of lead in the U.S. due to leading gas they typically use. Emissions have been linked to health problems.
Volume's pretty low on that. Can't hear it.
Switching to unleaded has far-reaching benefits.
We fly over the ocean regularly. That's where our practice area is. So, it's not just the homes and houses or the land around here, but it's also marine life that we're benefiting.
The new unleaded fuel is cleared for use in about 70% of small planes and already offered at Santa Monica, Van Nuys, and Oxnard airports. While there is no federal mandate to use it, Long Beach Airport Tenants Association President Kirk Castagna says the city is waiving the fuel delivery fee as an incentive.
This community is sensitive to environmental issues, and we hear that, and I think it's not just being heard here, but it's being heard around the country. And what happens in California, so goes the rest of the country.
The FAA says the goal is to eliminate leaded aviation fuel by the end of 2030. This new offering also helps Lori Shepler breathe a little easier. Her twins attend an elementary school just blocks from the airport. 2 in the nation for lead pollution, according to the EPA.
Small planes land most of the time, 65% of the time on this runway.
She's on a mission to raise awareness about harmful lead emissions from airports. And for years, they've
Sounds like that's playing again. I don't know if that's Peter or, hopefully it stopped. Leaded AV gas is the only remaining lead-containing transportation fuel. Prolonged and even short-term lead exposure can cause memory loss, nausea, fatigue, and increase the risk of developing hypertension, heart disease, kidney disease, and infertility. Lead may be, now the concern for the school district and the children in your care, that was a concern for the wider community, but the concern for the children in your care, lead may be harmful to people of all ages. However, the strongest evidence related to children's intellectual development. There is no known safe level of lead for this effect. In all humans, low levels of lead may cause a small increase in blood pressure. The main causes of lead in the air are smelting, which we don't have in this area, as well as air transportation. That's from Health Canada, their National Pollutant Release Inventory Substance Overview on lead. Arrowview Elementary School is within a kilometer of Falcon Beach Airport itself, and again within about a kilometer of the current flight path. This is within the area of concern for studies on lead levels near airports. There are two significant studies that are referenced in the majority of the literature on the subject. First one, I took one quote. They found significant increases in blood lead levels for children living within 1.5 kilometers of an airport. And the second study, which is more comprehensive, child blood lead levels were elevated close to airports. The effects were significant out to 3 kilometers away. Children were 25.2% more likely to have BLL in excess of 5 UGs per deciliter of blood, 1 kilometer distance. And David can explain later. There's no safe lead, but there's what's called an acceptable level. It's 3.5 UGs per deciliter of blood. This obviously is aviation gas. Now, the lead professor in that study said aviation gasoline is a daily unabated precaution. When we can say that the observed increase of detrimental effect on children living near. That's airborne lead. The other concern for air and staff.
Can other people hear Todd, because I'm having difficulty hearing him?
Oh, he's
Not very well.
crackling.
He's breaking up a little bit as
Breaking
he
up.
moves. As he moves,
Can you just
away
speak
from the
closer
mic.
to your microphone, Todd?
Oh, okay. Is that
Yep.
better?
That's much better.
Okay. So the concerns that I just discussed were airborne lead exposure, but there's also concern for children and staff at Arrowview for soil. Lead contaminated soil continues to be a hazardous source of lead exposure for young children. Deposits from leaded gasoline have contributed to increased levels of lead in the soil. Children can be exposed to lead in soil by swallowing or breathing in lead contaminated soil while playing. That's from the CDC, their childhood lead poisoning prevention. And I included the photo of Arrowview there because you can see there are a lot of bare soil areas in your playground, and even the grass soil areas can be disturbed. I just wanted you to have these words when you're thinking about what maybe you can do as a board. And it says, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. That's Mother Teresa. And how can you, as a board, impact change? I think there are two main issues that are for your awareness. There are safer fuels available now. UL 94 is a product that's been approved by the FAA as safe for use in single engine planes, up to 70% of those planes for the last 7 years. So we would ask your board to review the attached material from this presentation, our past email, and your own research to better understand the dangers associated with AV gas use and the opportunity to seek safer options to reduce exposure to lead. And I do have a couple of documents that provide technical details on the unleaded fuel product that's available now. I can provide to you later. The other issue that's of concern if you can impact change on is an altered flight path away from Arrowview School.
Lean into your microphone, Todd.
Sorry about that. An altered flight path away from Arrowview School is possible. We would ask that you advocate Qualicum Beach Town Council and your federal representatives to cooperate with each other and enact the changes required for a safer community, such as changes to the current flight path when safe to do so, and offering unleaded fuel to Qualicum Beach pilots. Here are some of the government contacts that are relevant: the mayor and the Qualicum Beach Council as the managers of the airport. Our member of parliament, as it's a federal jurisdiction, and I included the Minister of Transport. They're the main agency dealing with airports. However, it's a bit more complex. There is a role for Environment and Climate Change Canada and also Health Canada in this. And I apologize for the sound level. I've used this. Next time I'll think of maybe using some earphones or something. So, are there any questions?
I just wonder if I could add a bit, Todd, before we go on. It's David Mitchell.
Yes.
I'm assuming everyone can hear me.
Yep, you're kind of loud and clear.
My experiences with occupational health. I spent many years working with WorkSafe as a regulator, dealing with the lead refinery in Trail. I was also involved in the community lead health program there. So one of the concerns was with children. I know at Arrowview, because I walk through there quite regularly, that you have a little garden there, and that lead accumulates in gardens. If you're growing anything for the kids to eat, then that's increasing the amount of lead they get. Most of the standards set are for adult males, 70 kilograms. I don't think any of the students at Arrowview would fit that category. So they're more prone to the amount of lead that's in the air. It accumulates in the air and in the soil. It accumulates. It doesn't go away. It's not something that's bioavailable. In other words, biologically degraded. It's something that accumulates and it replaces calcium. And of course, we all know that calcium is an essential element in our diet. So particularly children growing are going to need more calcium. And if lead is substituted for calcium, it causes developmental effects. So they're particularly more prone to that, not just what's in the air, but also what's in the soil. And of course, when they bring it in on their feet, it becomes aerosolized in the hall and potentially exposing anyone working, like your maintenance crew working on the HVAC system or custodial staff working, cleaning the school. So there's more than just children involved in this. That's all I had to say.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you, Todd. I have a few questions for our trustees. As you would be aware, we will not make a decision or have any final decisions tonight for you, but we certainly take your comments and your reference material and things into account, and then we'll move from there. I have Trustee Kellogg first, and Trustee Austin. Trustee Kellogg.
Sorry, Todd, could you just unshare right now so that we can see all the conversation?
Or Peter's maybe doing that.
I don't know. Yeah, one of you.
Yeah. There we go. Good. Trustee Kellogg.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Todd and David, for that presentation. It was great. But I was wondering, did you bring a diagram of the actual flight path that shows that it goes over Arrowview?
If you have a look at Google Earth, you'll see that the runway.
Lean into your mic, Todd.
Sorry. If you have a look at Google Earth, you'll see that the runway runs directly over the area of Qualicum Woods out to the sea. And the current flight path that's approved is directly out. And although when you look up and you see a plane fly over, it's not directly overhead, it's within a kilometer of where the planes fly. And as is indicated from those studies, the area of concern is, most concern is, of course, closest to the airport and closest to the flight path, but up to 1.5 kilometers is very concerning. And even as that more comprehensive study said, up to 3 kilometers within that area is concerning as well for blood levels for adults and for children especially.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Austin?
Thank you very much. I just have a couple of questions. One is the proposed flight path, to change the flight path. How does that take it out of that 1.5 kilometer range from Arrowview? I understand that to go to the railway track and go down the railway track or something. Does that address the 1.5 kilometers from Arrowview?
It will increase the distance. I haven't measured that exact distance, but it's obviously going to increase the distance from Arrowview. If they go, what other pilots have told me they called the old flight path or the current flight path, or the Rupert Road or the railway flight path, it veers off south and away from Arrowview School. So it'd be creating distance and thus allowing, reduced exposure.
Okay, thank you. And I just have one more quick question. What's the traffic like from the Qualicum Airport? How utilized is it?
There was a presentation, really a public presentation. I think I'm trying to remember the exact number. I'd have to get back to Qualicum Beach to ask them, but I think David, do you recall?
Okay, well, there was a resident here who runs a home-based business who measured during business hours, like 9 till 4, pretty close to school hours, counted 40 flights during a weekday. So it really varies depending on the day. Sunny days, obviously, more pilots. They're mostly recreational pilots are out. Commercial airlines, it's quite infrequent. The flight school depends if they have students. So the answer is it's all over the board, but sometimes there's as many as 50 flights during school hours. And of course, these kids go home, and I assume they live in the neighborhood, so they'll still be exposed.
Thank you very much.
And Trustee Kurland, then Trustee Young.
Thanks, Todd. So I'm a commercial pilot. I have 1,400 hours of flight time, mostly in and out of Qualicum Airport. And it used to be that you'd take off on 29 and then turn to a heading of 210 at whatever altitude to avoid the town. And then they changed it because now there's an instrument approach. And you have to, after you're at 1,000 feet AGL, which means above ground level, you have to continue on that path, extended center line of 29 until you're basically by the Qualicum, the inn there over the beach. So it's quite a ways from the school. The flight path is not over Arrowview School. When you're coming in, it's actually over at Oceanside. Usually you're throttled back, and so the worst part would be on takeoff. We'd be the most emissions that you'd have. So it's quite a ways from the school. I don't think that anybody's done any tests on the kids to see what the lead levels would be. I mean, lead is bad. I love the smell of bad gas, but lead is bad. We know that. And because of that, your point is moot in that there's an organization, a company called GAMI, General Aviation Modifications Incorporated, that now has the STC, which means Supplemental Type Certificate for non-leaded 100 octane fuel, which is what we used to call 100 low lead. They've taken the lead out of it. It's in production. It has every single aircraft piston, spark-driven aircraft engine. So turbine engines are not part of this because they don't burn gasoline anyway. There's a lot of reasons why they put lead in the fuel, and I'm not going to go into that right now. But they have succeeded in creating a non-leaded fuel for general aviation aircraft. And within 2 years, I suspect that there won't be any lead anymore. So, us getting involved in this personally, I think is a moot point because it's not going to happen anymore. And, you know, I don't know what the lead levels are in the kids there, but for me to take this on and be involved in it is a moot point because they've gotten the lead out. They're taking it away. It's gone.
Okay, permission trustees Young and Kellogg to let Todd respond. He has
Yep.
his hand up. Are you
Yes.
okay with that? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Todd, please go ahead.
Yes, just in relation to the leaded fuel, the problem is that the Qualicum Beach Airport doesn't supply the leaded fuel right now. And we've been advocating with them to approach Transport Canada and the relevant authorities to get the fuel. They tell us that they have no authority over that. It has to be done with Transport Canada. It's
You
a bit
said
more
leaded
complex
or unleaded, Todd. You
And
mean
unleaded.
to provide to get unleaded fuel provided. Yes, that's correct. Sorry. So the unleaded product isn't available right now, Perry.
No, but
whether
it's just they've just come out with within 2 years that you won't be able to get leaded fuel anymore. It's the it won't be available. They're not going to be selling it. It's gone. You know, I mean,
Okay,
they're
well,
going to go.
okay. With all due respect to it, it requires the will of your local airport to supply the product. If they don't supply the product, the pilots don't have the choice of using it. And UL 94 has been out for 7 years, approved for safe use by the FAA. The GAMI product is new and it's not widely distributed yet. So I agree with you that, you know, GAMI 100, there's also the Swift Fuel is coming out with a 100 product to replace the low lead. But however, they're not available yet to the pilots. So we're asking you to work with other parts of the community to encourage the Qualicum Beach Airport to work with federal authorities to ensure that the product is available to pilots, because if they don't have it, they can't use it.
Okay,
Thanks,
trustee Young and then trustee Kellogg.
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation, Todd and David. Just anecdotally, I travel that trail quite a bit, bike, walk, all kinds of stuff. The one that goes through and then becomes Fern Road and goes into town. And I don't know about Flight Pass, but I know that there are a lot of small planes that seem to use that corridor, and that's quite close to Arrowview. So you know, I don't know very much about whether leaded fuel is going to continue. I imagine it won't, but it might be worth doing a little bit more research into this and just see how it goes. Thanks.
Yeah, Elaine.
Trustee Kellogg.
Yeah, I just wanted to, if they were to change the flight path and go down the railway track, then they're going over another school, then they're going over KSS. So to me, it would be, if we were going to lobby for anything, it would be for them to bring in unleaded gas to lobby the municipality, if that's, you know, the decision that we made. But I don't know about moving the flight path to just go over another school. If in fact the flight path does go over Arrowview, then it's going over KSS. So anyways, that's just my two. It was a really interesting presentation, and it's very eye-opening, and thank you very much.
So I think we'll close the discussion there. I don't know where to take the recent article. It was just picked up in the PQB News that the town of Qualicum has taken out a tender with Western Oil Services to take out the 20,000 liter underground gas fueling system and replace with an above ground system complete. It's just across my desk. I don't really, know where it would stand with what we're talking about right now, or at this point. But I'd just like to thank you very much, both of you, for joining us this evening. I think you presented us with some very informative information for us to chew on. And yes, I know really the situation is that we're trying to complement the work of Town Council and Ministry of Transport to give some messaging. So I think we can take it away from this point. And if we have any further questions, I hope we'd be able to reach out to you again to have you in a further discussion if we need it. But I think we'll take it as a takeaway and see where we can go. We meet quite regularly with the town of Qualicum, and so certainly to possibly raise our hand on it might be something we embark on. So thank you very much for this, and appreciate your bringing this to our attention. And if you'd like to stay, you're more than welcome to stay. But if you've had enough, then we understand. We won't take it personally. Now
With
call
the-
upon Matt. Oh,
With
sorry.
the chair's permission and the board, I can answer that question you had about that article quickly if you want.
Yeah. Oh, sure. No, I was just scanning it completely to
So-
scan.
So the tanks that are being replaced are for leaded fuel. They're not for unleaded fuel. And
Okay,
we raised it with Qualicum, and they would require 2 separate tanks because there's going to be a transition period. You're not going to have all, unleaded fuel
Right.
overnight and not have any. So they would need to, and they haven't even pondered the concept of 2 tanks. That's only
Okay.
for leaded fuel, that new tank system. So.
That was my suspect because I couldn't quite see whether it said removing AV gas to replace with. But as I said, it was just a scan that I was doing of the article. So thank you for clarifying that for us.
It's
I
called
appreciate it.
avgas, Eve. Sorry.
Yeah, avgas. AV gas, avgas.
No,
Okay.
avgas, aviation
Avgas.
gas.
No gas and
Aviation.
avgas.
So thank you for having us
Thank
tonight.
you.
We appreciate it. And if you have any other questions, I'm available by email, and I can send you those documents if you want on the efficacy and safety of the unleaded product. So, thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Matt Wood, President of Mount Arrowsmith Teachers Association. Your
Hey,
monthly
good
report.
evening. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't have a lot to report tonight. I just want to be thankful that I have this opportunity to end this meeting. Actually, I wanted to say that was a kind of an interesting report. I guess happy I didn't purchase anything close to an airport at this moment, but yeah, so actually for tonight, yeah, we do not have a report to put forward. So thanks, everyone.
Okay. Well, I'm sure everyone's getting keen on winter celebrations. And so all the teachers are practice right now. Sherry, do I see Sherry for QP? Okay, I don't see anyone from QP. DPAC, I see Jessica, Angel, and who'd like to go? And there's Carrie there. Sorry.
Sure.
I don't know with my screens tonight. I'm having quite the issue keeping track of people.
No
Okay.
worries.
Carrie.
DPAC has sent out a Google Forms survey entitled DPAC Learning Opportunities Inquiry, November 2023, to all PACs to share with their families. We are asking parents and caregivers to weigh in on what's important to them and where they would like to see DPAC direct BC's gaming grant of $2,500 that DPAC received. The deadline for submission is December 15th. The survey results will be announced in the January 17th DPAC meeting. Reminder, there's no December DPAC meeting. If you've not received a copy of the survey, please contact your PAC or email at sd69dpac@gmail.com. DPAC would like to take this time to remind everyone in the Qualicum School District that DPAC, the District Parent Advisory Council, does not have or support any personal Facebook page or Instagram page representing parents, caregivers in our Qualicum School District. In recognition of the negative bullying, harassment, and intimidation that can occur on social media and how groups can be misrepresented and targeted, any previous DPAC social media has been put on hiatus this year. DPAC is focused on directing parents and caregivers to sanctioned and supported school district websites and resources. We want families to succeed and have an amazing and positive education experience in our school district. The best place for parents and guardians to reach out for information is at the school level via in-person at a PAC meeting, a PAC email, a school website, or a newsletter, or at the district PAC level. And DPAC encourages parents to check out the district website, sign up for district emails, or attend a DPAC meeting or email sd69dpac@gmail.com. And finally, at the provincial level, by visiting the BCC PAC or the BC Confederation of Parent Advisory Councils website, or the Ministry of Education and Childcare website. DPAC and PAC caregiver volunteers are committed to the success of our kids, families, and our Qualicum School District as a whole. They are motivated by positivity and teamwork they are motivated by positivity and teamwork and are looking forward to 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Well said. Thank you. No public question period or comments, no action period. So action items, I'm sorry. So information items, superintendent report, Dr. Jory.
Thank you, Chair Flynn. Greetings, everyone. A squale to all of you out there in the Qualicum School District, or QSD in short form. Things are going well across the district, and I'm pleased to tell you that if you actually take the time to go to schools and talk to staff or students, the positive buzz that was present in the first week of September has continued to carry on for the most part all the way into November. Yes, there were some protests, but much more support for the district's work. And yes, there has been a bit of rain, but it's very good for the trees and rivers, don't you know? And yes, there has been some illness, but we're still able to do business and things appear to be improving. And it is always good to remind ourselves that while things can never be perfect, that they are still going very well overall. Please don't take my word for it either. It's true that I'm known for my sunny disposition. I do invite you, as always, to talk to your child, their teacher, their principal, and to those who are learning and working in the system to know as much as you can about what is going on in our schools today if you are ever curious. It's interesting to note that November has become conference month in British Columbia for the education sector. Exempt staff have been to events hosted by BCPC, that's HR, hosted by the employer, VISA, which is the island superintendents, BCSSA, which is the provincial superintendents, ITK 12, which is a tech conference, BCSTA, which is, of course, school trustees, CSA, which is careers and trades, and BCPVPA, which, of course, is the Principals Association, though not all of us, and not all of us at once for sure, have been away. And I'm also aware that our union partners have been attending significant gatherings across BC and beyond. As much as I have some misgivings about large-scale learning sessions, many of the speakers I did see this month had useful contributions, and I did get a chance to chat with trustees, network with other educators across the province, and even meet our potential new in-laws one evening, which became a key discussion point across our last event. Back in district, I was pleased to be in Bolinas a couple weeks ago and walk right into a girls volleyball tournament. There were players everywhere playing, watching, warming up in the hallway, and it was exciting and messy and awesome. It is thrilling to see the return of the types of activities to our schools, along with dances and clubs and trips and all the things that students and parents told us that they missed and really value about their schools when we gathered input to build our new strategic plan. As much as learning will always be at the forefront, we believe that giving, growing, and belonging are the pathways to better learning and absolutely worth supporting in their own right. On that note, strategic plan brochures have been handed out to staff and delivered to schools where they are available for any students or parents who want a hard copy. The White Fleet looks resplendent with their new door decals, and every time I turn around, I see fresh examples of our new branding. We will be doing some planning sessions with our principals and vice principals next week, where we will continue our journey towards alignment between district and schools, and the board can expect to see drafts of new operational plans coming forward in the next couple of months. There is a survey out to staff right now to help inform a potential plan for our learning support program. I was hoping to share some encouraging news on the achievement front this week, as the graduation rates were supposed to be made public. However, a technical glitch at the ministry has delayed the release, so we are on hold for now. I say encouraging news because of the great work that has been going on in our schools that will absolutely lead to better outcomes over time, but also with the notion that if our last year's 5-year grad rates were the highest ever, then this year's 6-year rates should be at least pretty good. There's a logic there, I think. We also have some good news, again, we think, from the recent FSA sessions, but I'll leave the details to Director Terpstra to share with you at this time. Friday will be a ministry day in the Qualicum School District with students not in session. All staff will be in attendance for the morning, where they will hear first from Chief Ricalma of the Qualicum First Nation, then from myself regarding some strategic plan highlights, and then from the keynote, Dr. Dustin Louie, who will be sharing some insights into supporting truth and reconciliation. We have provided lunch for all participants. Then in the afternoon, operational staff will return to their job sites to their regular duties, and educational staff will do some more learning that will positively impact classroom and practice and content. Trustees are more than welcome, and we hope to see you all there at KSS Friday. As a heads up to the board, on Friday, I will be introducing some upcoming topics that I think we need to discuss and framing them from the perspective of truth and reconciliation, equity, First People's Principles of Learning, the FESL mandate of improving student outcomes, and our strategic plan, of course, which serves as the nexus for all of these concepts, as well as the emerging concerns around student attendance, which stretch far and wide around the globe in this post-pandemic era. What are some things that could impact all of this positively, and what one thing would be at the top of that list? I bet you can't wait for me to share this one. Yep. I think it's time to start to talk about start time. Yeah. Bells, bells, bells. No doubt you have all heard about the research that says that standard start times in North American schools are a problem for kids and often for parents as well. No doubt you've heard that sleeping just a little bit longer can have noticeable positive effects on student attendance, engagement, and learning. This to me is one very glaring example of the knowing doing gap that lingers on in the system, I mean across North America. However, we can do something about it, especially with our new transportation software coming online. I think it's time to revisit this conversation in earnest. I'm sure you've talked about it in the past, but it's, I think, time to raise this conversation again in earnest now. There are a number of other quick updates for you regarding learning and more from around the district, which the team will provide next. As I often do, I want to say thank you to all of our staff for their hard work and enthusiasm this November. Really feels positive. Things look and sound to be on track. And once again, this is because of everyone out there. Yes, the people in our office are doing a great job too, but it is really you out there in the system doing this work, and it is noticed and appreciated by all. Great job. Hesepka. Thank you, everyone.
Well, that was major trepidation there. I've been here a long time, and I don't think we've ever talked about bells.
No?
Anyway,
Oh.
Trustee Austin, Trustee Kurland and Trustee Austin. Questions quickly.
Can we get rid of daylight savings time if we're going to talk about bell schedules? Please.
Talk to California.
My cat votes yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Austin.
I was just going to say, because Surrey, the school district in the Lower Mainland, is really struggling, as many of you know, with they have quite a student population. They don't have enough space for the students. They're having some real challenges there. And they are having the bell, the start and stop school day time, big time. One of the suggestions, I don't know, but they're looking at all sorts of things, but one of them was to sort of have split kind of days, and there would be the early starts, and then there'd be the start that starts at 2 p.m. and maybe goes till 8 p.m. I'm not saying that's where this conversation would be going in our district, but I thought it was really interesting that these are conversations that are happening in other districts as well.
Yeah, Surrey's. It's going to be interesting to see how Surrey gets out their survey stuff. Anyway, Dr. Jordan, you want to comment first before Elaine, or?
Oh yeah, we're not talking about starting at 2 p.m. we're gonna ante up with about 30 minutes later, and that's kind of where I'll be angling for, just so you know.
No, I didn't mean to frighten anyone. I knew that wasn't the goal.
Trustee Young.
Yeah, I actually am a baby boomer, so I went through splits and working, doing shifts, and it's not good. It taught me how to skip class really well, so it didn't help with my attendance. On the topic of changing bell times, I have always been in favor of having a later start time. And when I suggested this in a staff room in a previous district, nobody talked to me for about 2 weeks afterwards, because, we always want to put students first, but man, if you ask teachers if they want to, get off school at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they're not so excited. Good luck.
Can I just add one more quick comment to the bell time? that we have to consider in our district because we do have the transportation piece. And some students are getting on a bus, at 7 o'clock in the morning or
7.
just after 7 in the morning. So, so yeah, we have different challenges than a place like Surrey, but we certainly have that kind of thing to consider as well. What time kids are actually getting up and out the door to get to school.
That's because the outliers share their buses with the inside, and so they get up early on the outside. Okay, educational programs update, tag team between the Associate Superintendent Wilson and Director of Instruction, Mr. Terpstra. I turn it over to you to see who's going first, second.
I can go first, as usual, and that way Ms. Wilson can fill in any gaps that I may have missed. Yeah, I just wanted to say the technology conference and Principal Rowan and her team also attended. I really go to just stay ahead of them in the conversation, not ahead of them, but to be able to actually talk to them around technology. But one of my goals was to actually learn about AI, which was focus of that conference, and get ahead of that conversation. And I did learn a lot, and also, a lot about, the benefits that we're going to have because of AI, but also some of the things that we're going to have to educate our kids about going forward. It is interesting that one of the presenters was actually from Microsoft, and Barry might like this, is actually having AI Copilot with all its programs. So you will actually have, with the whole Microsoft suite, a Copilot that will provide suggestions on enhancing anything that you do with Microsoft. Career Education was another conference. I'm happy to announce and that the Ministry of Education is enhancing dual credit, providing extra funds for districts, especially in the areas of health and early childhood education. We right now actually have a pilot going on, and next semester we'll have a health dual credit program where students will be able to take 2 courses at one's at Camosun, one's at Northland College. And then we're also working and looking at early childhood education possibilities of dual credit for our students. We've also finished November, not only was conference month, but concluding district-wide assessments, including grade 3 and 5 writing, 6 and 8 numeracy, and grade 9 literacy. And so what was great about this is that teams of the grade 3 and 5 teachers got together with our teaching and learning team and really looked at what they learned from the student data, what actions and focuses that they wanted to do, and then as well as what learning do we want to do so we can achieve those actions. Same with numeracy, and literacy is actually tomorrow. We're going through the grade 9 literacy assessments. And we also have a planned day of learning with that whole grade 8, grade 9 team to do learning rounds with Nanaimo School District and Cowichan. So we're taking 15 of our teachers to Dover to do some literacy learning with Leighton Schnellert, a name that we know really well, but also they're going to be able to participate in observing a classroom teacher actually deliver a lesson to students. So that is all coming up in the next little while. And the last thing for me is just, reminding everybody that learning updates are coming out both in the high schools and elementaries by no later than December 18th. And we look forward to having those go out in the system and us once again communicating the great learning that's going on in our district to our parents. That's all for me.
Trustee Curlin, you have a question for Mr. Terpstra?
No, it's not a question. It's just a comment. I'm just showing my age, I guess, because in my day, AI referred to artificial insemination. So,
A little too much information, Barry?
We gotta
We changed
bend
it
with
to
the times there.
intelligence.
Okay, Associate Superintendent Ms. Wilson.
Most of our work that we've been doing this past month was covered and supported through conversation that we had at the Ed Committee. So I encourage people to make sure they read Trustee Austin's report, which is always amazing in terms of how she captures and shares the information. A couple of mentions. One is to our operations and maintenance folks. Part of our Feeding Futures is to add something to our backpack programs that would be a monthly grocery list to families. And I think everybody was surprised last Thursday, Friday at the quantity that we delivered. It was a lot. We did put out a little note to say we're not sure what to expect. We're not sure what this is going to look like. Please bear with us. But 70 families got a really big food hamper that was supported through the volunteers in our community, through Feeding Futures, through our operations and maintenance department, and then by our school staff that delivered it to their homes. So we're doing something in our community to support families that are finding themselves in challenging situations. But it took a real big team to do that. So I really want to acknowledge Phil's crew there and the support that they gave. We had a new teachers session in conjunction with MATA at the beginning of November. It wasn't overly well attended. Maybe we need to look at our timing, but it does help us recognize and wanted to make a note that we are constantly hiring to our TTOC list as people get jobs, and we have student teachers in our system. The count that I heard the other day, and Rudy might be able to add to that, is we have over 40 student teachers in our system right now. We were already being asked because some graduate in December, whether we're hiring to that list. And so it's a great way for us to see who's in our district, to do some recruitment, and 40 teachers working alongside student teachers in our system. Yes, winter concerts are happening. I was in a school today and the music specialist came by me with these music sheets, almost prancing in her steps. So she said, it's that time of year. I love this time of year. I'm not sure whether all staff love the time of year in another 2-3 weeks when they've heard the song over and over again. But it's an enjoyable time, and our schools are doing their best to make sure that it is a winter concert, and lots of parents love coming to enjoy that winter festivities and listen to the students sing. And yeah. Our superintendent mentioned already around a learning support survey that's gone out there to our system because it will be part of our operational manual for that. We are seeking parent input as well, so it's important that DPAC, please be aware of that. There's a couple of other surveys out there too. One is through our accessibility work, and that's being led by Tandy Gunn and also supported by Brent from our operations and maintenance, making sure that we're in compliance with that and looking at what our accessibility needs to be. And the other one is about childcare, making sure we're addressing some of the childcare needs that are being surfaced. We've heard that there's some wait lists at Arrowview Kids Club, and we also still have a small wait list at Qualicum, and we're looking at Nanoose because there's a wait list in the Nanoose community as well, so working with that particular group. Thank you, Deepak, for mentioning social media. It constantly continues to be an area of concern for our youth. I was on the phone to one of our schools earlier, and there's some social media things going on, and it's not good. It's not good for our kids. They get wrapped into things that cause hurt and harmful behaviors. And so again, that messaging, and you'll see a message come out from Belinas actually this week around some of the things that are happening and making sure that parents are talking to kiddos about social media and what they're getting involved in, as well as we're doing some support. We bringing Safer Schools in this Thursday and next Tuesday to do some grade-wide assemblies. But again, know whom they're talking to. And that's about it. Thank you.
And I just was going to mention off the top, and then I forgot, was the press release from the government with posters and support to schools on vaping again. And that's nice to see that there's a big push by government and health specifically in vaping, because what I think we thought we were on top of many years ago with Andrea Button of DPAC and things like that, it certainly seems to be rearing its head again. So hopefully this stuff has landed in schools, and I just saw it being posters and things like that. So how we can put that stuff forward and make it front and center, as I'm sure it's something our principals at the high schools are looking at.
And one of the supports that we have in our system is Miranda, who is our district child and youth care worker. And part of what she does is goes into schools to talk about decision making, as well as the effects of drugs and/or alcohol. Vaping is one of her passion areas. She did a survey within our own district just prior to COVID in terms of what that was. We know it's been on the uptake. It is an ongoing conversation, so absolutely, yes.
Any further comments, trustees? Seeing no hands up, we can move along then to the Finance and Operations Committee of the whole. Trustee Young, pages 20 to 76.
Yeah, I know. It's like when I
But-
used to do policy, right? It's like, you know, I got 3/4 of the thing. Anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Amos fairly quickly here. But I would like to get the motion on the floor, and our report is just a couple of pages because I took a few notes and my notes are longer than some other people's notes and probably not as good. Anyway, so I am moving that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum receive the Statement of Financial Information, also called SOFI, report for the year ended June 30th, 2023. And that's pages 22 to 78. It makes great bedtime reading. So I'll move that.
Seconded, Trustee Austin. You're asking Mr. Amos to give some additional
I think
comments?
that's fair, yes.
Okay, well, it is a complete financial statement of the district. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
caveat that I would provide, that, yeah, absolutely. There's not 50 page of new stuff. It's basically 10 pages of new stuff, because 50 pages is the financial statements that have already been approved by the board. But yes, so the SOFI clearly is, and I spoke at length, obviously, in the finance committee, and you can review my notes in that package kind of thing. But again, recognizing that this is part of our annual reporting as prescribed by the Transparency Act and the Financial Information Regulations, reporting on salaries greater than 75,000 and supplies greater than 25,000. Those numbers haven't changed in the last 15 years. And so what tends to happen is the length of the report just gets longer because, of course, wage rates, particularly the last couple of years, are matching COLA, and therefore are increasing at all levels of the school districts also. So yes, the report's before you. Not much to speak to other than what was in the notes.
Thank you, Mr. Amos. Are there any questions, trustees? The motion is on the floor. I'll call a question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And yes, if they would raise the threshold of these reporting features, I think it would cut the size down of the documents. So now I'll move to the Policy Committee of the Whole report, and I'll call on Trustee Kellogg to walk us through a series of motions for this evening.
Right. The first,
And maybe,
pardon me? Oh, I'm on
no,
mute.
sorry, Pete, no, Peter threw his hand up, so I just
Oh,
wondered if you-
I
Sorry.
did. Is it possible for me just to say a couple of things first? I have been having some reflections on our process, and I just thought it'd be nice to not have a decision about this, but just sort of frame some of our processes in and give you something to think about as we move forward. Would that be acceptable to the board?
Sure.
Everyone's good with that? Yep. And
Good
for
with
some
that.
reason, you've gone sideways, Trustee Austin. Oh, there you go. Okay. We'll get to you after with your hand up.
Okay. We've had an ongoing conversation around how we transfer information. And that's been going on for, I don't know, several months. And I'll kind of frame it this way. In my previous district, policy was done in a board committee, not a committee of the whole, a committee. And so while every board member could attend, and sometimes did, frequently it was just one or two board members at a time there to bear witness to the work. In our school district, of course, typically it's all five of you. You're not compelled to all be there at the same time, but typically you are. And we talk about each policy change 3 times, and then bring those changes forward when appropriate to the main board table. And you may have noted that when we're in policy committee that I tend to follow a similar speech pattern when introducing concepts. So Dr. Jory, would you like to talk about this? Yes. And then I tend to say roughly the same things at each meeting to introduce the concepts that we're putting forward in the form of new policy or policy changes. And that repetition, of course, creates a link from one to the other, reminds everybody, including myself, of course, of where we are in the conversation. And so what I think is kind of happening is by the time we get to this meeting, we're a little bit tired of it all, and it's been talked out quite thoroughly. And I'm wondering, well, that's all fine and good if everybody in those meetings is who is here in this meeting, and that is frequently, but not always the case. And so I have a proposal to consider, and of course, no decision to make now, but there are 3 options I'd like you to think about. One is that we actually summarize those thoughts in the form of minutes or some kind of report each month in a policy meeting. That we have summaries of each topics that get kind of slotted in to each motion, so that there's a little bit of the key points for the public to see or for us to discuss, or that we have that prepared ahead of time, and so we can read that out prior to each motion being considered for approval by the board. And one of the reasons we haven't done this yet is because we felt, well, this is a lot of work for somebody and that might not be appropriate. But we also have been doing some work in the background, and of course, one of the suggestions was to try and turn on the transcript and see what those meetings kind of look like. And that was amazing. It was an amazing experience. We got 61 pages of content. That's not usable for the public, and it's not, it's just not good. But then on the other day, I started messing around with ChatGPT and chunked out a section of the transcript and asked it to create a 100-word summary, 80 or less, 50 words or less, or 40 words or less summary. And it did it in 2 seconds. And I will just read this one example to you. This is the 40 or less. Dr. Jory proposes aligning school policies on corporate sponsorships, suggesting a minor change to allow local businesses to sponsor publications with principal approval. The goal is to balance oversight with support for curricular funding. Now, that's pretty cool that a computer did that. Now, I could have done a summary that good myself, but it did it in 2 seconds, 2 seconds. And so myself or other staff could actually take a transcript, use ChatGPT to melt each of those transcripts down into something and either present it in its own form, put it in chunks into the board package, or read them out loud in advance of the motion for approval. So I'm just putting that out there as a simple way for us to link that meeting to this meeting and not have it create additional staff work, or at least not much staff work. So I'll pause there. And I was thinking, of course, well, I should have done it for all of them because we could have done it tonight, but I just did it for that one. So with no further ado, I'll step aside and allow other comments and questions.
So I have Trustee Austin and then Trustee Curlin, and then Trustee Kellogg can move into her first item for our discussions tonight on policy. Trustee Austin.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Peter, for speaking to that, because yes, I've also been giving it some thought, because oftentimes at policy, there is some very good discussion, oftentimes, not often, but sometimes debate. And we talk it through quite a bit at policy. And then by the time it gets to the board table, we don't have those same kind of discussions because we feel like it's already been done at policy committee. However, we haven't had those conversations at policy are not part of the public record. When the policy comes to the board table, then it becomes a matter of public record. So until we do get those synopsises and summaries of our policy committee, it behooves the trustees, even though it's repetitive, to repeat if you do have concerns or comments at the public board table so that it does become a part of the public record. Hopefully, I'm all in favor of what you're talking about here, Peter, and hopefully if it does a good job summarizing it, then we won't have to have as much of that repetition. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Trustee Kurland.
So let me get this straight, Peter. You're saying that AI can do the summaries?
I'm saying it can do the summaries in. I don't think it's better work than a human can do, but oh my goodness, it did it quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a perfect space for a tool like ChatGPT. You have the transcript and it melted it this very, very loose conveyance of information down into those 3 sentences that I just read out to you, and it did it in 2 seconds.
I love that. You know, we could do a test so that we sit around and we discuss something and then have it do the summary and see how we like it. Perfect. Thank you. I love that.
I'll share the other summaries with you.
Trustee Keller, are you making a comment or do you want to move ahead on your agenda?
No, I just wanted to make a comment. I want to thank you very much, Dr. Jory, for doing that. It's always been a concern to me that I'm not skilled enough to be taking notes and providing a decent report at the end, because I find it difficult to chair and be a note taker as well. It's just not, it's not something I've ever had to do. And I actually use the GPT chat as well for other things if I have a question, and it will come up with answers incredibly fast. So if it's a tool that we can use, I would love it. I would love to use it as a report or the minutes that go along with the bylaw meeting. I think that's really great. Thanks.
Trustee
Can I just add a quick comment?
Wait, go,
sorry.
Trustee Young, and Trustee Young, and then yourself again.
Okay, well, I was gonna suggest that maybe, and I don't know if we want to move it as a motion, but that we try it for the next policy meeting and see how it goes.
I don't think it needs to be a motion. We'll just try it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Sounds like Cole's notes for meetings.
Yeah. Trustee Austin.
Trying to get better.
I just wanted to comment on the transcription of the team meetings. I'm not afraid of the length of them. It was my hope that if we weren't going to be video recording the meetings, then we could release the transcript. But when you actually look at a transcript, it gets the essence of what was said, but it misses a lot of grammar, a lot of spelling. It replaces words, and it misses the nuance of language, which is so very important. And so I wouldn't at all have been comfortable releasing the transcript, because it wasn't, if you weren't there, it's not very reflective, perhaps, of conversation that happens. It's a great tool to use if you were there to help summarize, but as a whole, just the transcript, from my perspective, doesn't necessarily reflect well of the meeting, just because of some of its limitations.
Yeah, it's definitely not school district quality.
Language and linguistics?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you further comment, Julie? Or okay, thank you. Okay, Trustee Kellogg, over to your board admin procedure.
Policy Committee of the Whole report. A, administrative procedure to the board. Policy 705, corporate community sponsorship, partnership, and advertising in schools. That is just being brought forward for information only, and it's on page 77 to 79. Going forward, B, Board Policy 100, sustainable practices. Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy 100 Sustainable Practices at its regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023.
Moved by trustee Kellogg, seconder, please. Thank you, trustee Kurland. Any questions, trustees? And I think with this just being at first reading, we'll have an opportunity to hear second reading with maybe some ChatGPT type commentary to go along with it. Trustee Austin.
Yes, thank you. This is one of those case scenarios where I made comments at the policy committee, but because they're not written down, I will repeat them here. So my apologies. I'm hoping that we can work on the policy statement for this one. I think it's lacking something. I do think it's lacking a bit of that community piece. But as this is first reading, I think I'm certainly going to go forward, but I'm hoping that we can work on that policy statement so that it reflects what I think this policy and the admin procedures are actually trying to address.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Superintendent Jory, you want to add a comment here?
Yep, I just want everybody to recall that the AP has a line in there that's bolstering the necessity for everybody to get on board with, reducing waste in regard to power and such, and that phrase, I think it's number 7 or something like that. But also that Trustee Austin in the last meeting did want the word sustainable to show up specifically in the language, and I did add that. I don't have it open in front of me, but I did add that in there. But she's right on point with the looseness of that phrasing for in the opening statement, and we should work on that.
Thank you, Superintendent Jory. Is there any other comments, trustees? I'll call a question. All those in favor, first reading, sustainable practices. Thank you very much. Carried. 105, use of school facilities.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revision Board Policy 105, use of school facilities at its regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023. And I just want to add something to this because there was an error in the policy that went out that is documented. Rental fees on the administrative procedures that the Director of Operations, not instruction, would discuss the use of equipment and determine the costs. So that was just a bit of an error that was in there that we're correcting now.
Trustee Kellogg, moved by Trustee Kellogg, seconded by Trustee Austin. Superintendent Jory, additional comments?
Yeah, and one sentence this time, just that based on feedback, we made some changes to the policy to encourage smoother operations, and they will be apparent by the notations in the policy as presented.
Trustee Austin, comments?
Sorry, they're the same as my previous ones. Actually, I thought that was the policy we were talking about. The policy statement, but it worked with the other one too.
Before,
it
it'll
still
work
worked.
again.
I've been scrolling up and down through this massive agenda just trying to find things, so I get lost. Anyway, so yes, this one I would like to work on the policy statement so it reflects the content of the policy and the admin procedure for. That's it.
I think your query and our discussion at the time was the highest reasonable standards was sort of what does all that mean, and a little more context around that. So it's applicable to both. There you go. Any further comments, trustees? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, carried. Board bylaw 5, parent-student appeals. Trustee Kellogg.
Yeah, recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve the first reading to adopt the revisions of Board Bylaw 5, Parents and Students Appeal to the Board of Education at its regular board meeting of November 28th.
I have a seconder, trustees. Thank you, Trustee Kurland. Comments? Additional thoughts?
I'll go again. I believe this one's mostly housekeeping, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, housekeeping, yeah. Just one bylaw being inserted or something. Yeah. Any other comments, trustees? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, Board Bylaw 6, indemnification.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve the first reading to adopt the revisions to the Board Bylaw 6 indemnification at its regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023.
Could I have a seconder, please, trustees? Second, Trustee Young. Any comments? Seeing none. Oh, sorry,
Lane's got her
Trustee.
hand up.
Yep. Sorry. Yep.
Lost in the sun again, am I?
You are. Yeah, no, it is.
Anyway, this is a comment I didn't make at policy, but I did have it in my notes that just to point out, this is a really important policy or bylaw for us to have because it's the one that kind of protects us. So it's a good one for us to, as trustees, I think, to really kind of memorize.
Yep. I have no further hands up. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, bylaw 7, bylaw policy and development review.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 approve the reading to adopt the revisions of Board Bylaw 7, bylaw and policy development and review at its regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023.
Moved by Trustee Kellogg. Seconder, please, trustees. Seconder. Thank you, Trustee Young. Any further discussion? I don't see any things. So in times as we go ahead with some of these things, we might do second and third reading together at the second stage, but I won't entertain that concept at this point. We'll just have this up for first reading today, and because there is no changes, but something might come up. So all those in favor? Thank you. Carried. Board Bylaw 2, board structure.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve Board Bylaw 2, board structure as currently written at the regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023.
Seconder, please, trustees. Thank you, Trustee Kurland. Any comments, folks? Again, I think it's just the only addition or changes to item 7, the board chair may call a recess at their discretion.
Is that not in the next one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm pulling it.
Or
Pulling a Trustee Austin. I'm scrolling so fast. I've got to the next one. Sorry.
Oh, great. Now it's going to have a name.
Yes,
Yeah, it's the Austin effect. Sorry, my apologies.
Oh, you guys, keep your bylaws straight.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor on Board Bylaw 2, board structure. Thank you very much, trustees. Carried. Board Bylaw 3, meetings of the board. I was so excited to get there.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve second reading to adopt the revision to Board Bylaw 3, meetings of the board at its regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023.
Seconder, please, trustees. Thank you, trustee Austin and Superintendent Jory.
Yep, and as already mentioned, the board chair may recess, and also it mention of a video conferencing by the board may decide
Yes.
to video conference.
Yes.
That was never explicitly stated in a policy before, I don't believe.
Great.
Item 1 and item 7. Any questions, trustees? Seeing no hands, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Carried. Board bylaw 4, banking. Okay, Mr. Amos, be careful.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 approve the second reading to adopt the revisions of Board Bylaw 4 banking at its regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023.
Could I have a seconder, please, trustees? Thank you, trustee Young. Any comments? Just review signing authority. And seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, new and repurposed facilities, board policy 103.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 approve second reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy 103, new repurposed facilities at its regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023.
This case, there was a strikeout, superintendent. Oh, sorry, seconder, please. Seconder. Thank you, trustee Young. Superintendent Jory.
Yep. Change the AP, change the policy, just a strikeout as mentioned. That's eliminating a restriction that would prevent us from engaging in opportunities to name our school in a variety of ways, including us being gifted a name.
Trustee Austin.
The only thing about that, that line had been put in there originally because we didn't want to name facilities after people. So we put that line in to sort of say, okay, this is what we can. So I'm wondering when we is this, what reading is this for?
This second reading.
Second, okay. So when it comes back to policy, perhaps we can look at it so that I get what Peter's doing in terms of striking it out, but how we can also reintroduce that things won't be named after people.
Absolutely.
Further comments, trustees? Seeing no hands up, all those in favor? Carried. And last but not least, board policy 600, personnel.
Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 approve third and final reading to adopt the revisions of Board Policy 600, personnel at its regular board meeting of November 28th, 2023.
Seconder, please. Trustee Young? I think I saw 2 hands up. Okay, and this is the 10, 20, 30 year recognition of long service, which I believe is a very positive move for us to take. Trustee Young.
Yeah. I just wanted to speak to this because I'm not sure I've spoken to it publicly, but this is a change. Those of us who have served on the long-term service retirement committee over many years, it's a change that some of us have been wanting to make for years and years and years and years and years. And I'm so glad that we are able to make it at this point. And I just think that any recognition, and thank you, Peter, for recognizing staff and recognizing senior management, and you could add trustees to that too when you do. But I think any form of recognition and thanks that we can give to our staff is paid back in improved productivity over time. And I can't stress that enough. If you like working for us, you will do more. And one of the ways that we can ensure that people like working for us is saying thank you every single chance we get. So thanks to everybody who's on this call tonight, and thanks to those of you who have worked a 12-hour day today.
You're welcome.
He who jumps up to take the gratitude.
I do. I did start early. Ministry of Education call 7:30 sharp.
Seeing no further hands.
Well, you're not quite at 12 hours then.
No,
Peter,
not
are
just
you?
about. No, you're right.
Just
You're right.
about.
I was exaggerating. What can you do?
Always
We'll get you
Always
there.
exaggerating.
All those in favor, trustees? Thank you. Carried. Well done, Trustee Kellogg. That was quite the list.
Yeah.
You're marching along here. This is wonderful. Education Committee of the Whole, Trustee Austin, pages 126 to 129 of the report, but if you'd like to add additional commentary.
No, I think the report covers it, and I think Rudy and Jill, also, with their additions of this evening has covered it really well. I will just add, though, we have some wonderful presenters that come to our education committees. So I really encourage people, if they only have time for one committee, come to this one.
You're beating Trustee Young on the advertising.
A little plug for the Ed Committee, but we really do get some great presentations, and it really is good learning.
Awesome. Trustee Young.
Yeah, I just want to thank Trustee Austin. At some point, you got to do a workshop for us on how to do a report with all of those fabulous things that you put in it. And yeah, I would concur, actually, if you're going to go to one committee, it should probably be education or maybe policy. Nobody wants to know about finance and operations, right?
Okay, now we haven't really got a name on the next item, although 3 of us attended the BC School Trustees Association Fall Academy. Maybe we can all share in it, and I can start with Trustee Young and then move to Trustee Kellogg, and I'll be last because then I won't have to say anything. We spent two days in Vancouver last week with lots of presentations and information sharing, and each of us tried to share around the agenda, so we didn't do the same things twice. And actually, Superintendent Jory may wish to add commentary too, but I'll start with you, Trustee Young. Synopsis of your takeaways.
Yeah, my takeaways. Well, as you said, there were some really good plenary sessions. I think the one that I enjoyed most actually was the one, the fellow from BARC who had.
Oh, that was mine.
Oh, okay, I'll let you do it then.
No, it's okay.
I loved it. No, it's fine. I also liked Monique Graysmith, and I always like her. So, somebody else can take off on that. What I did in terms of the concurrent sessions is I followed the Indigenous Trail. I followed the Good Red Road. And one of the sessions was a session that didn't, it was interesting. I did the blanket exercise, and although I knew about the blanket exercise, I'd never done it. And so I'd never participated. So I did, but the thing that I found the most interesting was the learning from some of the other trustees who were there. Many of them were people of color, and I don't think they had any idea about Indigenous history in Canada. So it was really interesting to watch their reactions to the blanket exercise. Then I went to a session on Indigenous, on FNESC. FNESC is the First Nations Education Steering Committee. And they have a particular point of view, and they also are one of the 3 groups that's one of the 2 groups that's working with the government on making sure that Indigenous education is in our curriculum, and that everybody knows about the history. So This session was quite interesting because I've been kind of out of it a little bit. I've been not a part of the Indigenous Advisory Committee for a few years, and I wasn't a part of the Indigenous Equity Scan. So I didn't know much. So that's cool. And basically, they will be coming out, this tripartite group is going to be coming out with something that I don't think is going to affect our district that much, but it's kind of interesting. Because we already have an advisory committee that does this, but the point is that the nations, the rights holders, will be advising boards on how to use their Indigenous funding, on what programs and services are wanted, how they integrate how we integrate Indigenous worldviews into our curriculum. And they want to advise on other funds such as Feeding Futures, mental health funds, etc. And the terms of reference will be coming out later in a ministerial order, which kind of gives it some teeth. What else did I learn? This is based on a couple of, and I always go back to the acts and the original documents because my first degree is in history and you always go back to the primary document. So it looks like it's based on two things. First of all, the Declaration Action Plan commitments, and I gather that that comes out of UNDRIP, which, the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples that was accepted by the provincial government a few years ago. So I guess this is the act that is the action plan. And then there's another act, I can't find it right now, that I wanted to look up. Can't find it in my notes. I'll find it later. So if you want more information on that stuff, I'll be doing some research. And over to somebody else. Hey, Carol, do you want to go now?
Sure.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed the academy. I went to two different groups that I quite enjoyed. One was the superintendent from Revelstoke. I don't remember his name, but he did a session on governance, and I found it extremely interesting. I think there was a lot of new trustees that were in that group, so the questions were applicable to things that I might ask. The other thing that I went to that I found very moving was the death of a son. It was, there's a school trustee from Abbotsford whose son died of a fentanyl overdose, and it was his story. And the police officer that actually helped her through, they became quite good friends. She was there and she shared stories, and yeah, that was very moving and tough times. There's not enough services out to help somebody when they're struggling, particularly when it's a youth. I'm sure it's for everybody, but for youth, it's tough if your child gets into that situation. To be able to help them get out of there is it's a struggle. But the thing that I enjoyed the most, and this is, you guys might think this was silly, but it was one of our big gatherings, and I cannot remember his name, but the fellow that was Inuit, he's an author. What was his name?
I can't remember it, but it was a wonderful story.
Yeah, he was such a good storyteller. He was funny. He co-wrote a book with Robert Munch. Yeah. Yep. I'll have to get his name. Anyways, he was very engaging. Yeah, so I just really enjoyed it. It was good learning, and can't wait till next year.
Dr. Jory.
No, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Wow. Sorry, everyone. I think overall the event
what can you expect? He's been working over 12 hours today.
Well, I have now. Okay. Yeah. I think that that overall it's a very well-run event. It felt pretty crisp, and there were, I think, a lot of good choices for people to attend. Sometimes it's maybe not, there's not as much there as there was this time. For us, I mean, we've often seen these speakers multiple times before, and perhaps you have as well. The one that I haven't seen before that I did enjoy is Kevin Lamoureux, who spoke on the last day. Yeah, he's from out of province and maybe isn't as tuned into what we are doing here. And yeah, those are themes and stories that we have heard multiple times and talk about quite frequently in Equity Scan, frankly. But Buddy was on fire, and he was funny. He was sharp. He had lots of good anecdotes, and a lot of that real passion for education came through, and I found it very engaging. So that was my pick for the week. But yeah, overall, well done, BCSTA.
And his comments were Indigenous education related, and our push to continue having that as a focus of our curriculums and our talking and our teachings and things like that. So my takeaway was there was lots of great things. I did the governance stream as well, but the last speaker who gave me a nice warm heart and everything to leave the conference on was a gentleman who's a professor at the Sauder School at UBC, and it's a dog program. He has 64 dogs on campus. And it's you don't sort of book it out like a textbook or from the library a dog, but there are ways and means for students when in stress or anxiety, exam time specifically, and things like that, to be with a dog, share a dog, take a dog for a walk and things like that. But his theme through the whole thing was not only working with the dogs, but the aspect of kindness and dealing with kindness brings out the best in our kids and things like that. They feel good, others feel good, and he's done a lot of research on the notion of kindness with elementary straight through to high school kids, and he's had 3 districts in the province he's worked closely with, one being Vancouver, and it's just some interesting information and data on how kindness and the type of kindness comments that kids can come up with that I think I harken back, and Jillian will giggle, from the Steve Hamilton days of virtues and gotchas and stickers, and yes, they had their place, but I think we've evolved a little bit further now to maybe not singling it out, because then some kids don't express kindness in the same way, but to certainly acknowledge, and he can statistically say that it does reduce anxiety, your mental health change, things like that, and he said enhancing learning, and that, as I'm sure once BCSCA gets all of this stuff up, you can download all of these presentations, and if you're interested. But yeah, it was connecting with others, and we had a great series of four Ignite sessions with students from around the province, speaking 20 slides, 5 minutes in total for their 20 slides, and just some pretty powerful kids in our province and our system. And I think we can feel very proud of all of our work, our collective work. To see these kids, I guess my only comment back was to this, that, it's great to show the shine and things like that on the kids that are the naturals, but we can't lose sight of the kids that struggle, and that's part of our work too. Julie, question.
Well, actually, it's just more of a comment, because my daughter has worked through the BARC program. Her dog is part of the BARC program at the UBC campus in Kelowna. It was quite a rigorous process in order for her dog to be involved. But not only is it great for people that want to be with the dog, it's great for her because she gets to bring her dog to campus.
Yeah,
but she just can't say enough wonderful things about the BARC program.
Yeah, he is based out of Kelowna, but I know they have it available on campus at Vancouver too.
Yeah, and it's just all over. But it sounds great, and Appa's really happy.
Okay, thanks everyone. So next on the list is French Advisory, and I'll just give a quick, Mr. Terpstra being our staff support to French Advisory. We had our meeting yesterday, and continuing on, this committee meets 3 times a year to look at feedback and give feedback to senior staff and managing and matters of the French language program. And of course, Oceanside is dual track, and this year they have, and I think this is really cool, 3 French speaking EAs now on staff, which is really, really cool. The balance of classrooms, so I haven't got my notes, I'm working from Mr. Terstra's notes, but the balance of classrooms we managed to get through any wait lists and everything for kindergarten and things like that. So there was nobody who wanted to be in the French immersion program was denied. At the secondary level, we're working hard on the grade 8 transitioning, and I think what came through for me loud and clear was the work that we're going to continue to pursue between the elementary school and the grade 8 teachers, is the transitioning of the kids, so that we'll start graduating more kids with a bilingual dogwood. And what was in the days, I think, as Mr. Church put it, we'd have a 16, 17, 18. We're now starting to progress through into having 20s and high 20s and more as things are moving ahead. And this year, instead of just PE 10 being in French, it's switched over to Science 10 being in French. And I think that is awesome. That is some of our struggles with retention, well, not retention of French teachers, because I think we seem to be lacking in that department. It's the recruitment of the high levels, the senior grade levels. So now Science 10 is on the curriculum instead of PE. And the retention features is going up, and the Pro-D that the teachers that were present that want to work on is connecting the high school teachers with the elementary teachers more to definitely work on transitioning of kids, so they don't feel that they don't have choices and things like that. So they have some Pro-D related on that. And then we do have again the grant for Lynn Bouchard to travel between the elementary and the secondary levels to provide professional growth for teachers in classroom teaching and immersion strategies and resources and things like that. And so that's wonderful that we've got that grant again for next year. So we'll attach this to the report as minutes so that everybody can have a read. And seeing no hands, last but not least, Tribune Bay, Julie, Trustee Austin.
I just wanted to pull this out quickly, not necessarily for discussion, but I just wanted to give a heads up to our parents and teachers and administrators that the board will be talking about Tribune Bay. The park use permit is up for renewal next August 2024. So we're looking at Tribune Bay, and quite frankly, our usage by School District 69 has been down the last number of years. There's been COVID and various factors, but it hasn't been nearly as used as it has in the past. But so I think it's well worth having the discussion with our community. Do we value what is offered at Tribune Bay? And if so, how much do we value it? So those discussions, I think it'll be on next month's regular board meeting agenda. And so I just wanted to give the heads up so people have an opportunity to talk about it. Thanks.
Do some thinking. Yeah. Thanks, Trustee Austin. Trustee Young.
Yeah, I heard at the meeting that the park use date was December, but then I think I heard from you, Mr. Amos, that it was April this year. Could we clarify when that park use permit is up?
Yep.
And then I guess the other comment that I have is this is, for me, a lot of this is use it or lose it. So get the word out there, educators. If we can't see that folks are making use of this beautiful facility, then what do we do?
The permit is up December 31st, 2024. But if there is any kind of non-renewal, as it were, they want 6 months notice, which is where that August date comes into it. That's it.
It's just backing it off so they have enough time to do their process. Dr. Jory.
Yep, and on the note of fair notice and reminding everybody, if they value something, that voting with their feet speaks volumes, that we'll be reminding the principals in the upcoming meeting that this site does in fact exist, and if teachers do value it, they should be organizing trips, at least in the springtime, and that this would be something that we would want to include in our regular communications to the district, and we have one coming out on Friday, and so we can certainly slide that in there and give everybody a little bit of a reminder that they may want to be thinking about that in regard to in relation to our conversations that we've been having today.
That's great to include that there. Okay, public question period. I'm not sure how much public we have in attendance. Anybody have any questions of the board related to our agenda this evening? I don't see any hands going up. Oh, we've had Dr. Jory here for more than 12 hours of his day.
No, you haven't.
Overtime rates are not applicable here.
No, sunk cost all the way. Don't worry about it. I'm good.
It's good. So could
you got a career. You got a career. You don't get overtime.
Mover, please, to adjourn the meeting, and thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Trustee Kellogg, and have a pleasant evening, everyone. And then, as you know, it's a rather short jump to our December 12th meeting due to Christmas break and stuff like that. So thank you everyone for coming this evening. Have a pleasant evening. What's left of it.